Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. Press freedom in Asia. World Press Freedom Day held in Jakarta. India slips in ranking amidst climate of nationalism. Chinese president world's leading censor, says international media watchdog. No progress in Sri Lanka's journalist attack investigations and low press freedom ranking. No press freedom in Pakistan amidst blasphemy and security laws. Urgent appeal from Indonesia. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I'm Annie Lin. This week, Just Asia begins with World Press Freedom Day, annually celebrated on May 3rd. The day is marked by celebrating the fundamental principles of press freedom, assessing the state of these freedoms globally, and paying tribute to those journalists who have lost their lives supporting a free press. International media watchdog Reporters Without Borders releases an annual World Press Freedom Index, and its 2017 report reveals that press freedoms are deteriorating globally. The Asian region continues to fare badly, with notably big falls registered by Thailand, where the media industry is increasingly muscled by a military government, and Cambodia, where criminal defamation laws are being used to silence dissent. Pakistan, Philippines and Bangladesh are some of the worst countries in the world to be a journalist, while China and Vietnam have the largest prisons for journalists and bloggers. In Indonesia, journalists from around the world attended World Press Freedom Day in Jakarta this year, held between May 1st to 4th. On May 1st, journalists joined peaceful public protests organized by labor activists, whereas on May 2nd, journalists and activists attended a side event on restriction of press freedom in Papua. Press freedom is still a serious problem in Indonesia, and there were calls from various parts of the country for the government to protect journalists and investigate violations against them. According to the group Press Legal Aid, human rights violations against journalists increased last year. Whereas the group noted 47 cases of violation in 2015, they documented 83 cases in 2016. These violations include physical attacks, prohibition to access information, terror, and intimidation. Furthermore, Indonesia has 8 cases of murder of journalists, known as dark cases, none of which have been effectively investigated. The first was the murder of Mr. Fuad Muhammad Syafruddin in 1996, while the latest was of Mr. Alfred Muralawan in 2010.
Panjang 2 tahun ini di era Jokowi terutama, sebenarnya kami umpamanya yang di Jogja melihat bahwa ancaman terhadap kebebasan pers semakin kuat gitu ya, terutama dengan tidak dituntaskannya banyak kasus kekerasan terhadap jurnalis. Kalau di Jogja ada kasus Udin umpamanya, tapi masih ada lagi 7 jurnalis lain yang sampai saat ini kasusnya belum tuntas gitu, yang artinya ini juga menjadi persoalan ketika kemudian ada kekerasan lain ataupun bentuk kekerasan lain terhadap jurnalis di Indonesia, itu juga bisa jadi menjadi presiden buruk dan bisa jadi tidak dituntaskan juga, karena kemudian kasus-kasus yang sudah cukup lama yang harusnya bisa diselesaikan di era Jokowi dalam 2 tahun ini, tapi hingga saat ini tidak ada kejelasan. Sejauh ini sebenarnya peran pemerintah belum begitu signifikan yang kami lihat, karena mereka belum masih tidak ada. Kami mengukurnya sebenarnya lebih gini sih Mas Kris, dengan kasus yang terdahulu saja kemudian tidak ada gitu ya, belum ada tindak lanjut yang cukup signifikan. Tapi dalam hal saat ini yang memang jadi persoalan di pemerintah, mereka mengancam dengan adanya pemblokiran situs website teman-teman terutama untuk akses di Papua. Kami kira itu benar-benar ancaman yang luar biasa gitu. Kebebasan berpendapat, berekspresi, kebebasan pers di Papua itu sangat menjadi ancaman hingga saat ini. Bagaimana kemudian Kementerian Keminfo gitu ya, kemudian dia dengan seenaknya tanpa melakukan verifikasi atau melalui proses persidangan itu untuk kemudian menentukan apakah website tersebut layak ditutup atau tidaknya, tapi kemudian dengan kalau harapan kami pertama untuk yang paling penting saat ini adalah bagaimana pemerintah harus memberikan open access terhadap jurnalis di Papua gitu. Karena banyak pelanggaran hak asasi manusia di sana, banyak persoalan gitu ya. Kalau bahasa lainnya semalam diskusi disampaikan oleh Usman Hamid dari Amnesty International Indonesia, dia bilang ada silent genocide gitu yang sebenarnya itu bisa dibongkar ya, harus bisa disebarkan kepada publik jika itu memang terjadi ya, dengan cara kebebasan pers yang harus hadir di Papua gitu. Tapi sampai saat ini itu belum terwujud, dan itu harusnya janji Jokowi tahun 2015 yang mengatakan bahwa semua jurnalis dari luar negeri boleh melakukan akses liputan di Papua, itu harusnya benar-benar dilakukan, diterapkan gitu. Jangan kemudian di Kementerian Luar Negeri, kemudian TNI, polisi menolak apa yang kemudian sudah disampaikan Jokowi. Nah, kedua, kemudian kami melihat kasus-kasus pelanggaran ataupun pembunuhan terhadap rekan-rekan jurnalis itu yang kemudian belum tuntas, itu harus dituntaskan terutama di tahun ini atau lebih cepat tahun ini gitu ya, atau kemudian dalam periode kepemimpinan Jokowi ini. Jika tidak, itu akan menjadi presiden buruk dan kemudian menjadi ancaman kebebasan.
India has slipped 3 places in the 2017 World Press Freedom Index, ranking 136 out of 180. India's slip in rankings is not surprising, given the current climate of nationalism, cyberbullying, and vigilante justice. The past year has seen Hindu nationalists attempt to vilify all opposing and critical thought with the anti-national label. This has even resulted in charges of sedition, punishable by life imprisonment. Consequently, self-censorship is growing in the mainstream media. Journalists have also increasingly been targets of online smear campaigns, which at times even threaten physical reprisals. The difficult situation in Jammu and Kashmir sees frequent gags on the media as well, together with internet shutdowns. China's continuing crackdown on lawyers and activists is worrying and underlines the country's low ranking of 176 out of 180 countries in the World Press Freedom Index. According to the Reporters Without Borders report, President Xi Jinping is the planet's leading censor and press freedom predator. Last week, Chinese human rights lawyer Li Heping was convicted of subversion of state power at a secret trial in China almost 2 years after he was first detained in a sweeping crackdown. He has been sentenced to 3 years in prison with a 4-year reprieve. Although Li is likely to be released in the coming weeks, he's already spent more than 20 months in detention. At least 11 activists who received suspended sentences disappeared shortly after they were released, and some forced to undergo months of political education before being placed under house arrests. A lawyer hired by Li's family to defend him was rejected by authorities, and he was ultimately given a government-appointed lawyer, an increasing trend in political prosecutions. In Sri Lanka, although current President Sirisena promised to open investigations into attacks on journalists after being sworn in 2015, there has in fact been very little progress into the cases of Lasantha Vikramatunga, Prageeth Ignaligoda, other journalists and media channels. According to Sri Lanka's National Media Forum, the president is hampering the investigations so as to protect the intelligence officials responsible. Meanwhile, the counter-terrorism and media council bills currently being processed are likely to further restrict media freedom in the country. Sri Lanka remains at a low 141 in the Press Freedom Index, same as last year, lower than all South Asian countries except Bangladesh. According to Basil Fernando of the AHRC, lawlessness and the denial of press freedoms are not two separate things, they are deeply interconnected. Without a well-thought-out strategy to fight lawlessness manifesting in every aspect of life, it is not possible to protect any freedoms, including freedom of the press. Pakistan ranks 139th in the Press Freedom Index, while ranking among the bottom 10 countries for supporting free speech in the Global Index by Pew Research Center. According to a report by the International Federation of Journalists, Pakistan is the 4th most dangerous country in the world for journalists, with a total of 115 journalist killings since 1990. 2017 has seen 2 journalist deaths so far. Muhammad Jan from Kalat, Balochistan, was shot by unidentified assailants in January, while cameraman for the privately owned Samar TV was fatally shot in February. There's also been a dramatic rise in censorship in both electronic and print media under the pretext of national security and blasphemy. Journalists, together with scholars and other activists, are routinely attacked for writing and commenting on religious extremism and abuses by security forces. Meanwhile, the government has failed to prosecute attacks against journalists, thus providing perpetrators with impunity. Finally, the Urgent Appeals Weekly features one case from Indonesia about an acid attack against anti-corruption activist Mr. Sukama Hidayat and his wife. Sukama was attacked after he requested the Corruption Eradication Commission, KPK, to tackle a corruption case. So far, the investigation process of the acid attack against Sukama and his wife has not shown any progress. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.ahlrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.